Reppin' Philly ain't a choice, it's a way of life. PhillyGoat.com is your one stop shop for Philly pride. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off. Look fresh, stay Philly, Philly Goat. Go Birds. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Brotherly Birds Breakdown Draft Special Edition. We're the Montgomery Brothers. I'm Jim.
I'm Kyle Montgomery. How's it going?
What's up, brother? Who the hell is Mel Kiper?
Yeah. Who's Mel Kiper? Love it. Couldn't be a draft preview without talking about that, right?
No, it's an all-time best draft moment ever.
And if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, Google it. You watch the YouTube video. And that's all you got to type in. Who is Mel Kiper from the draft? That's all you got to type
Bill Polian, right?
Bill Polian. He goes, who the hell is Mel Kiper to tell me how to draft? What was he? He passed on Jim Harbaugh. Wasn't it Jim Harbaugh?
Well, it might have been.
Or did he draft Jim Harbaugh or something like that?
I think he was draft.
Yeah.
Todd.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, before we get into the draft, as always, as the AJ turns, lots of stuff has gone down since the last time we talked, and I want to get your take on a couple things. But first, obviously, for about the 90th time in the past 3 months, AJ Brown's going to be traded post June 1st. And the way Adam Schefter said it this morning was like it was breaking news. And I'm like, this has been the story since February.
Legit, the exact same tweet. Yeah. Almost word for word, the exact same tweet. So here's what it is. I believe it when I see it. Put it that way.
Here's where I'm going to put on my tin hat. Do you think somehow Adam Schefter was trying to take and deflect from probably somebody I'm not saying he did anything crazy, but somebody he's probably very close with in Diana Rossini, because apparently there's a lot of stuff going around the Patriots building right now that there could be a lot of stuff that Robert Kraft doesn't want to come out. Do you think maybe it was a smokescreen to cover for Diana?
It could have been. I wouldn't put it past him, because Shefty's always on his phone and he gets a lot of inside information. I'm sure, there's been times where she's helped him out and he's helped her out with some info and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he, right. Yeah. Right. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, or if it was the case like Robert Kraft called Shefty and said it, because the rumor was the Athletic is owned by the Times, right? The New York Times.
It is. Yeah, I have it because I have a subscription. I get access to the New York Times.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And there was a reporter that pretty much gave them a little leeway before they broke the report and was talking to Kraft about it. And Kraft was like hell-bent on not having the report come out and everything. So like, I'm sure there's more to this story than what we're leading on.
100%.
And look, anybody out there that's saying, it's hypocritical or there's a double standard because it's a female reporter and it's a male coach. Yeah, 100% there's a double standard, 100%. But if we start holding coaches and owners and everybody else that's a male accountable for cheating on their wives and doing things that are unprecedented, sports would be ruined. There would be no sports. That would be it, right? That would be it. But the thing that people are not realizing is if one of the head coaches does it, yes, it's immoral. Yes, he's cheating on his wife, all that stuff. But he's not doing it to break a story. You know what I mean? Like, there's a little, and look, I'm not accusing her or anything. I obviously wasn't there. I wasn't, the one snapping the pictures. I promise I was not me.
Big Dom.
But yeah, it might have been Big Dom from the third floor balcony. Who knows? But, it just seems kind of odd that she was the one breaking the AJ stories, and AJ's being traded to the Patriots, and the Patriots are in the running, the Patriots, and then all of a sudden you're holding hands. And look, all I got to say is this, right? We've both been married. Like we've had girlfriends, we had anything. Like, how do you think Vrabel's wife feels? seeing him holding hands with another female. Don't say that it was playful and friendly. Like,
No,
I don't hold hands with friends that are females. Like my friends'
no.
wives that are like they're my friends and it's their wives. We don't hold hands. We'll hug and say hello, but that's all it is. Like
High
it,
five, fist bump.
correct.
Right.
Correct. That was more than just a hello, holding hands type thing. That was a little more than that. And look, I know you can't tell everything from photos, but come on, man. Like
Well,
that was over the
but the
line.
thing, and nobody came out and said that it was like AI generated or
Correct.
photoshopped or anything. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
they were just
Yep.
like, it's like, hey, friends listen to "Endless Love in the Dark."
So here's the thing, right? We've talked about this since the whole AJ stuff broke. If the Eagles weren't going to trade him or weren't thinking about trading him, they could have squashed this months ago by saying AJ's not being traded. He's an Eagle, right?
One hundred
The same
percent.
thing can apply for Vrabel and Diana Rossini to say they could have came out and squashed it completely and been like, look, here's what it is. Nobody's done it. Nobody said anything.
No,
There's been
she
rumors about
resigned.
like exactly. Exactly. So that's just like almost admitting guilt when you do that. That's what it
Right.
is. So, I don't blame any other reporter, any other female reporter that's angry about this because it gives them all a bad name. So, like the ones that
Right.
are coming out and attacking Diana about this, good, good. You deserve a chance to speak your mind and tell her how you feel because this puts a bad mark on female reporters out there. It really does.
It does. And I mean, I guess the thing too that I'm not understanding why nobody is talking about is the fact that it's a huge conflict of interest because you know that guy like her, Schefter, Ian Rappaport, people like Mike Garafolo, like what they say carries a lot of weight around the league. So
Hmm.
who's to say they're not doing whatever? Maybe they didn't do anything. Maybe they got close. They're sitting in the hot tub. And Mike's like, hey, we want to save our first round pick for this season. Can you plant some? I'm hearing from sources that the most AJ is going to get is a second round pick or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
Like nobody's talking about that. And I think because the reporters are all trying to cover their own asses and cover her. But to me, that's the biggest thing. Like, scumbag, if you're going to cheat on your wife, cheat on your husband, hey, to each his own. Like, that's a whole, I
Yeah,
think, a
you got to
different
live with that.
conversation.
Right.
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 But as an Eagles fan, I'm like, wait a minute. If I'm Howie Roseman, I'm like, hold up. How, like, maybe I could have traded him for more to the Rams, but because you broke this story, and then mysteriously around that same time, the doctor came out and said his knee's a ticking time bomb. Maybe it
Yep.
is. Maybe it is. But it's just there's a lot of, and I think that's why Robert Kraft is like, hold up, didn't want any of this to come out because I think, I mean, he's already cheated, caught cheating twice between Deflategate, Spygate. I'm sure it's not the first and only time. They don't want them coming in and
Right.
starting investigating their practices.
Well, and you got to look at it from the Eagles' point of view, right? So, like, I don't know who allows what press credentials to be in the locker room to ask questions, but you got to think it's going to make them question who they trust with that access now, right?
Right.
I mean, that the Eagles insider Diana Rossini, like maybe I mean, what if stories come out now about Sal Palantonio because he's always been the Eagles insider for the last 30 years, like it was always
Right.
Eagles and Giants, like that's who in like you don't think that he ever gave like there's a reputation that they have built on trust and built on that stuff, and she
Exactly.
ruined it in what how many ever seconds it took. She ruined it. She
Yeah.
absolutely ruined it for herself. And look, I know for a fact that whatever podcast she goes on or whatever Netflix show, whatever she goes on to tell her side of the story, it'll be one of the most watched things because people love a train wreck, right? They love a car wreck. We know it when we're on the bypass, when we're on the turnpike. If there's even if it's on the other eastbound lane and you're going westbound, everybody stops to look at the car wreck to see what happened.
The
Has
good
nothing
old
to do with
Gaper
them.
delay.
Exactly, right? The rubbernecking stuff, and that's
Yep.
exactly what's gonna happen with this. They're gonna wanna hear her side of the story and just understand what happened, but, like, I think all NFL there's probably gonna be policy changes with who has access and who gets credentials to the locker rooms and that inside information. It probably
Right.
dampened it for a lot of people, you know? I can see
Right.
those press conferences getting slimmed down from now on, right? So, like, maybe they had 100 media members in there. Now there's probably gonna be strict policies. They might need to scan badges. There might be a whole bunch of different security features now.
No, I mean, and the thing is too, like, it, it's just like to I get that you want to sell the papers or get people to go to the athletic or whatever, but it's like don't be shady about it or don't put yourself in a position where it looks like there could be something shady. There's a chance that there was nothing shady about what they were discussing and she was, but it just like you're opening yourself up to speculation now because you hate your husband for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, and you see all the videos of her bashing him, like, if
Right.
you know, what was it, like, if I married a good-looking guy, I'd probably promote him too, but my husband's not. Like, all this
Yeah.
stuff, like, it's not a good look. It's not a good look across the board, and, at the end of the day, what it does is it just ruins the credibility of reporters, and, like, media members, and we've talked about it numerous times, like, you don't know who you can trust and who you can, and, like, I know the old adage is any news or any type of information is good information, you know what I mean? Like, whether it's good press or bad press, any press is good. This isn't good press. This is bad press, and there's
Yes.
there's no positive way you can spin this, So, I honestly feel bad for Vrabel in this in a certain way because I actually like him as a coach, but he put himself in that situation too. So it's just you
Exactly.
gotta,
Yeah.
it is what it is. I feel bad for the Eagles because the Eagles kind of got, I don't know, they got taken over by a Eagles insider, and like the schleps at WIP that are actually sticking up for her and like have her back. Like, I understand the afternoon show has to stick up for her because they named her Insider of the Year, right? So
Right.
like that's
But
gonna make them look like more like idiots if they don't stick up
right.
for her. But
But I guess that's the thing too. Like the people that the hosts on both stations on those shows, they're not necessarily reporters. Like Johnny Marks is not somebody I'm going to go to for, oh my god, he's breaking this story.
right.
They have to do it. So, but it's like, man, like you would be so quick if it was anybody else to kind of rip them and do, but because it's a friend of the show, it's just that's the thing that drives me crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if she was the reporter for the Giants or the Cowboys, it
Oh,
would be nonstop, like bashing them. They'd probably make song parodies. Like it would be
100%. Joe
nonstop.
Conklin would be calling in.
Correct. Correct. It'd be nonstop, and look, at the end of the day, it, what she was reporting on with AJ, like I get it. Like he was unhappy. I get it. But like now you're starting to question everything throughout the season. And you're like, all right, was
Right.
Diana the one in his ear chirping because Vrabel? How do you know how long
And
this was going on with Vrabel? You
and
know?
that's the other thing. And that's what I was going to say cuz I mean, I think you'd have to be blind to not realize that the Eagles are probably looking to trade AJ Brown. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think at this point, but could that relationship because this wasn't even last year. This has been 2, 3 years where I mean, 2023, you had the same things pop up. Super Bowl year, same things pop up. But like you said, like how long, you know what I mean? Like it's, and now,
Has he wanted to go to New England, or was it Diana in his ear saying, Vrabel's there, he used to coach you, you guys always had a good relationship, that would be a good fit for you. Like,
right.
you start to wonder about stuff like that. And that's what I'm saying from like a Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Sirianni type thing. Like, you got to be careful who you let in that locker room. Now you can't trust people, and that's just a sad place to be in, and I'm sure other teams in the NFL are looking at it going, damn, if the Eagles, a class organization, got that happen to them, what do you think could happen to us? and they're probably
Guys
looking
in
at it again.
Cleveland are like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Meanwhile, Jerry Jones is just letting anybody into their locker room, and it doesn't matter to him. But,
I,
you
he
know,
doesn't care.
no, and he probably doesn't even know who they are regardless.
So the
Senile
other
bastard.
report, though, I did hear, and I'm wondering if this could end up working out in the Eagles' advantage, is the trade compensation seemed like it was more than just a second round pick. I heard, and then this was Schefter again. It was a first rounder. I forget the years, but it was essentially a first and a second round over the next two drafts, 27 and 28. And I mean, I think sure the Eagles are not a better team without AJ Brown this year. I don't care what anybody says
Yep, yep,
um,
I agree.
with the guys they put in, but Howie can turn lemons into lemonade by if they get one first round pick and a second round pick, even if it's not in the same draft, I would take that in a
Well,
heartbeat at this point.
here's the other thing. The NFL is probably leaning on Robert Kraft and the Patriots to do whatever they need to do to pull this off
Make it
because
go away.
exactly, because then the Eagles aren't gonna do a tampering lawsuit against them and make this a big
Right.
thing because if it really because number one, you heard the talks of Vrabel earlier in the I think it was around the playoffs about him texting AJ and talking about all that, right? Like texting him throughout the
Oh,
season,
we
which you're
text
not
all the
allowed to
time
do.
during the season.
Yeah. I don't care if you're friends or not, like you're a coach on a player on an opposing team, like you're not supposed to do that. And then, with Diana Rossini and everything, like with Vrabel, like there could be some tampering there. You just don't know. And like I don't think the NFL wants to even deal with that. And to your point, Robert Kraft doesn't want another blemish, you know?
No.
Belichick already didn't get into the Hall of Fame this year because of their previous blemishes. He's not going to get in the Hall of Fame because of it. Like they're going to not be first ballot guys. So kind of is what it is. So he probably doesn't want another black mark on what's left of his legacy.
Right. And that meme? Howie Roseman's looking out behind the tree like this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And look, I'll take it any day of the week because they have the cap space now. They have the cap space to take on that dead cap hit this year.
Right.
So it is what it is. And we'll talk about the draft, but I mean, if this is going to be the draft where you take a wide receiver, you got some depth. You got some depth
Yeah.
at wide receiver. So
No, I agree. All right. So the other big story since the last time we talked, and just were two articles on back to back days, essentially saying everybody's, and again, I, I want to trust Tim McManus because I think he was one of those guys that has credibility. But all of a sudden, there's like 12 unnamed sources and whatnot saying that everybody's fed up with Jalen. What do you make of that?
so I don't know. I mean, I think it's just I think it's people trying to start and make a story about nothing, in my opinion. I mean, look, do I think that this is a make or break year for Jalen? Yeah, I do. I think, I'm not saying what he's accomplished with them has been minimal, but I think the Eagles and Jalen are both on a crossroads right now
Yes.
because there's obvious wins, there's obvious success there, but if he doesn't show that he can progress in any way, shape, or form, and at least show that he can make himself uncomfortable and do things that he hasn't not wanted to do, aka play under center a little more. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Throw over the middle a little more. Like if you have those opportunities, that matters, right? That matters. But then again, if you don't do those things and you still win 11 games or 12 games, I- how do you get rid of a guy like that? How
Right.
do you not
No.
re-sign him at that point? So I think it's make or break one way or the other. So like let's say the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, they win 12 games each year, right? They go 12-5 and they make it to the NFC Championship game, but they lose the NFC Championship game. How do you get rid of him? How do you move on? How do you move on from him?
I don't think you can. I
Same
think
way with Nick Sirianni. How do you move on from Nick Sirianni? This isn't a Rob Thompson situation. You know what I mean? This is a guy that
right.
has proven success and has already won a championship and been to two Super Bowls, right? That tandem has been to two Super Bowls. So, like, I don't buy that, like, the half of the organization is frustrated with him. I buy that there may be a handful of players that got frustrated with his lack of, willingness to run and willingness to do some of that stuff because they know when Jalen runs, we win, right? And
Right.
I guess that was and you and I talked about that plenty of times during the season. Like, he talks about he wants to do anything he can to win, but the one thing that you do that always results in a win is running the
You're
ball,
not doing.
and you didn't do it, so it contradicts itself, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of people in the locker room that felt the same way. But as far as I don't think Jeffrey. I know for a fact that at least it seems like Jeffrey is all in on Jalen. He's a big Jalen guy.
Yeah.
He's the face of the organization. You know what I mean?
No, and I think because then the next article was about them not wanting to sign him to an extension. And I mean, from a financial standpoint, it doesn't make any sense. And I believe it was Joe Burrow who signed his extension like a couple weeks after Jalen. I think it was Joe Burrow.
Pretty
And
sure it was. Yeah.
nobody's talking about Joe Burrow getting an extension right now.
Yeah,
So
I'm pretty sure it was
it,
because Jalen was the highest paid quarterback for like 2 weeks, and
yeah,
then it was Joe
it
Burrow.
wasn't long. Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
No, and I mean, and again, like I've said it before too. Like I think it was just good fodder for the anti-Jalen people to be like, see, and then you have the pro Jalen people who are like, no, Jalen, Saint Jalen, he doesn't do anything wrong. And I think the truth is right somewhere in the middle. Jalen needs to
Mhm.
run the ball more. Jalen needs to be under center. He needs to throw over the middle. He needs to get comfortable using motions and everything like that. I
Yep.
think we've all said that, but is he the worst quarterback in the history of the league? No. Dude's won a Super Bowl. Like,
Right. Well, and then you got all that stuff coming out, and then you see what happened in the last couple days where he hired whether he hired him or not, I don't know, but he was working out with Scott Leffler at Temple, right? So the former quarterbacks coach, who's no longer your quarterbacks coach, but you wanted him to coach you and like work out with
right,
you. So I don't know how the Eagles felt about that, but maybe they didn't like that because he didn't ask the current quarterbacks coach to, and then I don't know if you saw his Twitter photo of,
I
him
saw it.
all dark with the J on his hat, and it's like, oh, right after the AJ story broke is when he posts this. Really, like that's what we're doing again.
Right,
Like, oh, look at these photos. Jalen's not smiling. He must be pissed off at AJ. Like, why are we stretching? Why are we stretching?
right. Maybe he's just locked in and focused for the year. Today they started OTAs.
OTAs,
Why couldn't
exactly.
it have been just that?
He's locked in, he's locked and loaded. New year, new him, new coaching staff, like all on offense. Like we have to go to the extreme and think that it has to do with AJ. Like, come on, man.
Right.
What are we
And,
doing?
and it's like with our other teams, there's plenty. Like use that energy toward Bryce Harper, right? Although Bryce is actually playing pretty well.
Use it
I,
towards
I
Trey Turner.
yeah, there you go. Trey Turner right
Like
now.
I'm not gonna pick on like Alec Boehm needs to just take 2 weeks off. He has
He
enough
does.
shit in his personal life with his parents trying to take advantage of him and steal money from him. He has enough stuff that he has to worry about. His head's clearly not in the game, and he's a liability. Get him out of here. Let him take 2 weeks off. Pay him whatever you need to do. Just have him take 2 weeks off. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
it. And if he continues this slump, I think he needs to go into the Sirianni thing and shave his head
Oh,
because
100%.
when he
Can't
when
hurt.
he swings it when he swings at the first pitch and hits that ground ball, and I see his stupid hair flopping on the way to first base when he's running as slow as Keegan does, I'm like, come on, dude, like get through it, get through it. So but yeah,
Right.
it's you have that, and then you have the Sixers
You have
situation. You
Nick
have so
Nurse not
much.
having that team ready to even play
They
yesterday. Like,
forgot like I guess they forgot that like guarding the 3-point line wasn't optional. Like they were like, nah,
it's
we're good.
it's like the kids' rec leagues. Like Ella's
Yeah,
even her travel league. You weren't allowed to play defense outside of the three
right.
point line.
Right. So they're just giving free shots to one of the best shooting teams in the league. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Makes sense.
But no, let's talk
But
about
yeah,
Jalen's Instagram post.
Yeah, his picture that and it was on Twitter, and he hasn't posted anything since October on Twitter. But yet, we're gonna take that and run with it and make it something that it's not.
Right.
When there's clear things you could bash, and if you wanted to be positive, you could talk about the Flyers. But no,
You
we're
can't
gonna
be
talk about
positive.
AJ.
You
No,
can't be
no, we got to be
positive.
negative and talk about AJ being traded for the 90th time to the Patriots, and we'll talk about how everybody in Philly, including the owners, hate Jalen Hurts. It's a joke. It's a joke.
It is. So I guess this wasn't as big of a story, but the Eagles did make a trade.
They did.
Trade it for Dontavian Wicks, which I don't hate this move for two reasons. One, I think the Packers had a lot of talent. I've said this before, I don't think Jordan Love is a great quarterback at all. And I think that was part of why some of those receivers struggled there. But more importantly, he played in Mannion's system. So
Yep. Yep.
I mean, why wouldn't you have him? Young guy locked up for 2 years now, help ease the transition for some of these guys.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a bad move at all. I don't think it's like blockbuster. He's going to be a number one or
No,
number two receiver. But look, you got Wicks, you got Elijah Moore, and you got you know, Hollywood Brown.
Hollywood
I
Brown.
mean, one of them's probably not going to make the team, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta just consider that, especially if they end up drafting a receiver. One of them's not making the team. So low risk, high reward. I mean, they're filler guys, but they're veteran guys, is what it is at this point, right? They're guys that have
Yeah.
already been in the league. Wicks is probably the youngest out of all of them, and he's been in the league a few years now. So look, and to your point, he's played in Mannion's offense. If he can give you more than what Dotson gave you, I'm good with it. I'm good with it.
I
You
mean,
know what I mean?
not that hard. But I think you're right. Not all three of those guys are, but I think because of what they gave up and the ties with Mannion, I think Wicks will make the team.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I mean, you could flip a coin between Hollywood Brown and Elijah Moore.
It's the
Um,
same receiver. It's basically the same receiver. Like that's what you
Believe
get.
me, I had them both on the same fantasy team. They
Right.
are the
Right.
exact same receiver.
They're boom or bust. I mean, they're none of them are getting you like Hollywood Brown used to be able to get you multiple touchdowns in a game, but he's not going to be that guy in the Eagles
No,
offense. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. I think that when they did that, I bet you that signaled to me that the writing was on the wall, that it was pretty much
yeah,
AJ's gone, and that they're looking for a receiver in the draft. I don't think they're going to draft a receiver in the first round unless somebody falls to them at 23. I don't see them trading up for a receiver. I see them trading up for O-line, but not
yeah.
a receiver. Not a receiver.
No, and I mean, honestly, we might as well get right into that. I mean, I don't think you take a receiver at this point before the third round. I think you have too many needs, and I wouldn't even take a receiver. And to your point, unless somebody that you really like falls to you with the first pick in the third
Yep.
round, I wouldn't do anything until what is it, 98 they have in the third round.
98. Yep. Yep. They got 68 and 98.
Yeah,
So, um, yeah, I mean, look, areas of need, offensive line, right? Offensive line should be that first round pick, in my opinion.
100%.
Um,
Old school right
I
there.
just I don't see a reason why offensive line is not that first round pick. And depending on who falls where, you could easily package some draft picks and trade up
Yeah,
to get the guy that you want. I know that they're high on Blake Miller, Spencer Fano, whatever his name is from Utah. Um, but I saw a mock draft today that has them trading up with the Bucks, trading up to number 15 to take Freeling out of Georgia, the tackle. I wouldn't hate it. I would not hate that
no,
if they did that. Would not hate it. I also the other two guys are tackles. So if Freeland's not there at 15 and the Bucks aren't willing to trade, then I think they stand pat and they take up one of those other two offensive linemen. at 23, and I think I'm good with that. But O line needs to be addressed for sure, for sure.
No, I agree, and I know, I've seen a couple of those things too that they really wanna get him. I didn't know it was the Bucks that they were gonna try to trade up with, but
Hmm.
I think they need to get somebody though that can play guard as well. That and I
Yep.
do think, like, it has to be somebody that's gonna be a starter next year, essentially.
Yeah. So I think all those guys are versatile enough that they could play the guard position for a year, similar to what Jurgens did, right? So Jurgens was hand selected to be the center in waiting. Kelsey came back for another year, so he had to play guard, and then he moved
Right.
over to center. I think um, any of those guys, even if you take the guard from Penn State, which I don't think you waste a first round pick on a guard. That's more of like a second round or a third round pick on a guard. But um, any of those guys coming in would probably give Steen a run for his money for the starting role, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. But is I've seen a lot of people picking the dude from Penn State to go in the first round, so
Yeah, I mean,
it
I think he's the from what I saw, the rankings have him as the best inside or interior offensive lineman in the
right.
draft. So, but do you spend first round money as like when you know you have Lane Johnson going to retire, but like you Landon Dickerson might retire too. You know what I mean? Like you have no
Right.
idea. So obviously you need both.
Now you need to get Lane's replacement in this draft. I mean, because if you think about it, going back to Andy Reid, we've been pretty well like
Yeah,
a
solid
line
with
of
the tackles.
succession from
Yeah.
tackles. Like
Yep.
so, but yeah, I would be because I think from an edge perspective and even safety to a certain point, you're not going to get the top safeties in this draft. They're going to be way off the board before you
Yep.
go.
Yep.
I think there's enough depth that you could go second or third round and get a safety that maybe might not start, but could push and get some playing time this year. And then, I mean, edge, I think this is a deep draft for edges too. So I don't necessarily think you need to go crazy to try to get an edge in the first round either when your biggest need last year was offensive line depth.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think they're gonna. Offensive line is the clear choice unless somebody falls to them, similar to like how Jalen Carter fell at 9. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if somebody falls all the way to 23, like, look, I don't see it happening, but if there's some strange thing that happens where Sadiq falls to them at 23, and it's between an offensive lineman or Sadiq, I wouldn't hate the fact that they took Sadiq in the first round. I wouldn't
No.
hate it. Now that would shore up the fact that like your next 4 picks need to be O line, safety, and edge, right?
Right.
But the way I had it going out, I had Flyers just scored, by the way.
I
Flyers
was
just
gonna
scored.
say, was that more tone?
Um, yep, yep.
Nice.
So
Kid's a
I
stud.
have it O line in the first round, and
Yep.
then second round I have edge or safety, depending on who's there.
Yep.
Third round in with the 68th pick, I have the same thing, edge or safety, depending on who's there. And then the second, third round pick at 98, I have offensive line or receiver, depending on who's there.
Agreed.
That's how the first 4 picks shape out to me. And look, I would be completely fine if out of that they got 2 offensive linemen, an edge, and a safety, and they didn't get a receiver yet. I'd be fine with that.
Right. No, I think that it's essentially I have O line edge, safety, O line edge, depending on how they go in the
Yep.
first round. But I think you can't mess this up. You need to get that O line. And then, yeah, I mean, I nowhere on draft day, I don't think right now, do you draft a tight end either. Like, I just don't see
I don't
that
think you do
right.
that till like round 5 or 6 or somewhere
Take a
around that
take a
area.
flyer on somebody. Yeah. Now, interesting. I know he signed under the um, franchise tag, but his name surfaced as possible day one trade candidates, and the Eagles obviously they were linked to him before he signed the franchise tag. Would you give up maybe your third round pick, one of them, for Kyle Pitts, and then sign him long term?
Depending on how your first 2 rounds go, maybe,
Makes sense.
right? So, I would say, look, I wouldn't make that trade on Thursday, right? I would make it on Friday, depending on what you got Thursday. So, if you got one of these stud offensive tackles on Thursday, yeah, I would probably I'd try to give up either one, 68 or 98. I would give up 68 or 98 because then that second round pick can go to edge or safety, right?
Right.
And everything that I saw in all the mock drafts has them taking Hawkley, or Halsey, whatever his name is. I call him Hawkley, from LSU, or I even saw Jalen Kelger or Keegler, something like that. From I call him Jalen, like they need another Jalen on the team, but
Right.
from South Carolina,
Gonna have to wear
as the
name tags.
safeties. Yeah, yeah, right. And he spelled it with I think it's ON. So it's like the dude on Oklahoma City. So it's crazy. It's crazy. But both of them are like ball hawks, and that's exactly what they need. But the difference between them and Makuba, they can play coverage a little better,
Right.
right? So, and that gives the flexibility in Vic's defense that he really needs. But yeah, I mean, I I'd take a fly. Like I think Pitts in this offense would be the heir apparent to Goddard, and I think he'd probably do well.
And I mean, that's my thinking. Now, from a contract perspective, how does that work? Does he have to can they like, if they trade for him, could they give him an extension, or does he have to play this
No,
year under the
they can give
franchise
him an
tag?
extension. They can give
Okay.
him an extension. Yep. I think
But
his franchise number would be guaranteed this year, but the way that they could do it, I'm pretty sure that they could kind of redo that, like similar to what Howie does, and give it to him as a bonus type
upfront.
thing, like a Russ.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. And then it's a
And
minimal. It's not as big of a cap hit.
yeah, because I mean, I just feel like the talent is there with him. I just feel like he's been stuck with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix, and I
Well,
mean,
and whoever's calling the plays. I mean, look what Bijan's done. Like Bijan has not done everything that
right,
he possibly could in the league. Like Bijan should get the same production and the same play capabilities as Jameer Gibbs gets, right?
agreed.
And he doesn't. He doesn't because to a certain extent too, their defense is trash and they're usually behind in games. So you can't, you know what I mean? But like that matters too. So
Trust me, I had him on fantasy and didn't work out that well.
there you go. There you go.
So the other guy that was buzzing around Twitter today for a trade, I don't know what I would give up for him. Like I don't think I would give up anything more than the 98th pick, or anything higher, I should say. But is Grenard from Minnesota to kind of fill that edge.
Mhm.
I mean, I think coming off like such a dip in production this year, what'd he go from like 12 sacks to like 2 last
Yeah.
season?
Yep.
I think you could get him possibly with like the 98th pick, or even one of the 4th round picks. And I mean, I don't think it's a long term solution, but it gives you a body, an experienced body to kind of work with some of those guys.
I mean, that's a better option than the Alojalari and, the swings and misses last year, right?
Right.
And I would definitely pull that trigger if we can give up 98 or 114, like the 3rd or 4th round pick for him, and Minnesota's willing to do it, I would do that. Um, I'd rather do that than Pitts if we had the choice, right?
So if you do that, then do you kind of switch the draft board a little bit and then try to take a tight end earlier if you get basically a starting edge out of it, or a rotational edge out of it?
So I had in the 4th round, I had either tight end or defensive line, depending on how the draft shakes out and who's there. So I had them looking at tight end in the 4th round and on. So because there are some options in this tight end class. There really is. There's a
There
dude
is.
from Ohio State that Max Lane or Max Kane. I know that he went to Ohio State. We don't really like that, but solid guy, solid tight end. He can block. He's used to, and I hate to say it like this, but he's used to not getting the ball a lot and playing for the better part of the team type of thing.
Yeah.
Like when you have those guys on offense. So I think he has the right mind frame. But yeah, I mean, there's I would look that way, and I think that gives you more options because I think the top edges are probably going to go in that first 2 rounds. It is
Yeah.
deep when it comes to that, but I think it's still going to be like those first 2 rounds. I think the offensive line depth is where you're going to get bang for your buck. I mean, I don't see them. Look, is there going to be a Jason Kelsey in the 6th round in this draft? Maybe. I don't see the Eagles taking one in that type of guy in the 6th round. I can see them. That's where they probably will end up taking a damn quarterback. Um, but I saw a mock draft that had them taking Carson Beck in like the 4th round, and I'm like, God, no, please don't take Carson Beck.
But the problem is Carson Beck and Jalen Hurts are like the same age.
They exactly the same age. I think
Yeah.
Jalen's what 26, and I think Carson Beck's 25.
Yeah.
But that's the same. You know what I mean? And Jalen's been in the league 5 years. Like that's just insane to me. Insane. I did see a couple that had them taking Cole Payton out of North Dakota State, and I was like, no, we do not want another
No.
North Dakota State guy.
No.
Not happening. Not happening. We don't want it.
I see.
You can keep
I
him.
don't see them unless it's like a throwaway pick where they somehow make a couple trades and get like a 7th round pick. I really don't see them going after a quarterback this year unless like there's like a guy that's similar to what happened with Jalen, unless it's like
Yep.
we can't pass this up, or even Nick Foles was the same way. I
Yep.
don't think the Eagles were necessarily looking for a quarterback when they drafted him. Was that shorthanded?
Scored again. Yep. Scored again. Bang.
Nice.
Bang. Bang. Love it. Love it. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. And I saw a couple things like Drew Aller from Penn State because he's like the
Oh
six
God.
six, and I'm like, God, come on, man! Like he couldn't win anything at Penn
Did you
State. I don't
see?
want him to come to Philly.
Yeah, I saw him last year. No, like I saw him in a
Yeah,
big
I'm good.
game, like
I'm good. And look,
all
like
behind.
this year isn't the year for quarterbacks. Next year is the year for quarterbacks. Like if you're going to
Right.
draft anybody, right? So like that's where if you can package whatever you're going to package for AJ, I'd rather get the 2nd round pick this year and the 1st round pick next year, right?
R-
And then that way, or whatever it is, right? The 2nd round pick in 28 and the 1st round pick next year. That way you
Yeah.
can package 2 1st rounds and move up in the draft if you really need to get a quarterback at that point, right? Um,
And truthfully, I
but
think if they're going to be in a position where they're using a first or even a 2nd round pick on a quarterback next year, I think we'll have our answer with Jalen. So I think your own pick is probably going to be high enough where you could make one of those package deals.
exactly. Well, here's the other thing too that I think Tanner McKee still does have value, right? So he still has trade value. You're not going to get the 3rd round pick that we thought we were going to get for him, or even anything higher than that. But you could probably still get a 4th or 5th round pick for Tanner McKee, depending on who
Probably.
still needs a quarterback. So I'm probably thinking more of a 5th than a 4th, but you never know. I mean, any anybody's worth what somebody's willing to pay for, right? So Howie's pulled off
And
shadier deals.
Sam Bradford got a number 1 pick. I mean,
That's what I'm saying, right? If somebody is and Tanner McKee may be on the roster until training camp, and then
right.
somebody goes down with an injury and they need a guy, and boom, there it is, right?
Yeah,
There's
I
our
don't see
draft
them
pick for next year.
trading him this weekend at all.
No, unless something falls into their lap, you know what I mean? Like unless something crazy happens. So one thing I did want to touch on, right? So like from a wide receiver perspective, what do we do if Omar Cooper Jr. or Malachi Fields falls to the Eagles at 23? How do you not take talent like that if they fall to you right there? If for some reason they go to you, how do you not take them?
I think you're right, but see, I think if something like that happens though, and Howie is forced to make the pick, I think he would. Like, I really do. But I think before it would even come to that, he's gonna be working the phones and being like, "What are you gonna give me for this pick?" To like,
Correct.
no
That's what I was
matter
going to
who it
say.
is.
I could see him trading back a pick or
Yes.
trading
Yeah.
back 2 picks to stockpile third round picks or even a second and third round pick next year or something to
Yeah.
move back 2 spots and then still get the offensive lineman they want, right? I could see that happen, and that's kinda where my mind went, like, I could see him doing both, but the more how we move out of that would be to move back a spot or 2 and stockpile picks, right?
Right.
Let somebody else draft him because as much as you will need a receiver, you don't need a number 1 receiver right now because Devontae Smith can be that guy.
Exactly. And you just have to, I just can't get past the fact of you have such a glaring need on the offensive line, one way or the other. Like maybe if those 5 guys you have right now stay healthy, your line is fine. But you know that's not going to happen. And then you know that 2 of the 5 might retire at the end of the year. So you
Yeah.
need pieces. And Fred, I love you, but I don't think Fred is the long-term
No, he's the 6th
solution.
man. He's the
Yeah.
6th man for a reason, like, that's what he is. He can fill in a pinch, but he's a 6th man. But, yeah, like, I think Howie understands and look, the Eagles have been this way for the better part of 30 years where they build
Yeah.
from the lines out, right? So, like, they know the offensive line and defensive line is how you win. You build from the trenches. So, I think Howie, as much as that talent will be there, I think he will be able to make a smart move and trade back. And that's if he's not being aggressive. I can also see him being aggressive and trading up for like that Freeling type pick and getting the guy that he
Yeah.
really wants. If it's trading up 4 spots or 5 spots, you know. Because
No,
look what isn't that what he did with Jalen Carter? He did, or not? Maybe he did do it with Jalen Carter, but he definitely did it with Devontae Smith, where he jumped the Giants 1 spot,
did.
right?
I remember because you
One
see the
spot.
guy, the always see the post, and he was like, "No, not Philadelphia. No,
Yeah.
no."
Yep. Yep, they're gonna take him. They're gonna take him. Ah, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So like, he will move up even if it's just 1 spot, just to grab the guy that he wants. So you know,
Yeah, I mean, and that was gonna be kinda my next question to you. I don't think there's any way in hell the Eagles pick at 23 on Thursday. I think they're either gonna move top 15 or they might not even pick in the first round if Howie can get enough picks and he
yeah.
knows who he can get.
Well, I think it depends on how the draft is going too, right? Because that'll
Yeah,
dictate a lot. Because if let's say the first 12 picks happen and there's not an offensive lineman off the board, Howie's probably
he's
working 17 phones to go, I need to move up
yep.
because I need to take my offensive lineman before the run happens. Because we've all played fantasy football. We know when one person takes a quarterback, well, the quarterback run's happening. It doesn't matter what round it is. Everybody panics because they think they're not going to get
Oh
a
no.
quarterback.
Yeah.
So like 8 guys out of that round take a damn quarterback. Right. And then you're sitting there going, well, then I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to get this guy. And then you're waiting around in like round 10 and you're like, shit, I don't have any quarterbacks to pick from. So now I'm going to be struggling. I'm going to have to,
Dak
you know,
Prescott again.
yeah, exactly, right? So I think he's going to be smart about it, and if he needs, to your point, he's going to move up and he's going to try to get the guy that he wants. And if he can't do that, then yeah, he's probably going to stockpile picks and move back.
Yep. So who would be like, or I shouldn't say who, what would be one position that would shock you that Howie made a priority on day 1 or day 2? I mean, because I
On
feel like day
day
3
one
it's
or day two,
yeah,
um, so I thought about this, and an interesting thing for me would be cornerback because you got so many guys on the defense that you have to worry about signing. And we talked about it last time. I don't know that as much as we all love Coop and we love Q, I don't know that they're going to be able to keep both of them now that they re-signed Jordan Davis. And then what do you do with Jalen
interesting.
Carter? What do you do with Alex Hunt? What do you do with these guys? So What do you do with Nolan Smith? So, like, there's got to be at least one odd man out. So, if he went cornerback with a round one, unless it was like a Quinyon Mitchell style talent, that would shock me. I wouldn't put it past him, but it would shock me
Right.
because that's not the glaring need because we're like, oh, well, and that's why it would shock me because everybody's looking at it going, well, we got Reek, we got Q, and we got Coop. We don't need anybody. Well, Reek's on a 1 year deal, and we have to re-sign Coop after next year, or he's gone.
Oh, that's right, because he's not a first round pick.
Nope, nope. So we only got him for 1 more year locked up. So
So little Lito, Sheldon, and Michael Lewis deja vu.
correct. It could happen, right? And that's where I was like, all right, it wouldn't shock me because it technically could be viewed as a need, right?
Right.
For depth. But at the same time, do you do that in the first round? I don't know.
So what's the reaction if that happens?
I
Everybody's
think
like, "Howie
people
lost it. Howie lost it."
I think some people, I think Philadelphia fans will overreact and be all like, "Oh my god, I can't believe we did that. We had so many other glaring needs." Instead of looking at the player and looking at who they got and
Yeah.
going, "All right," and then looking at what we just talked about with Reek's not chances are Reek's not re-signing next year, right? He's not. He's here for a one
No.
year deal unless something drastic happens. Um, and he decides to give us a hometown discount, which isn't going to happen
No,
because
he
he's
came here
come
and
here on a
signed
make it
that
deal.
contract in order to
Right.
ball out and get a
Right.
payday.
Exactly. He's betting on himself, which and good for him because that usually bodes well for the Eagles when they do that. But
Yes.
that that's what I'm saying. Like I think if people look at it realistically, cornerback is it's not listed as an area of need for the Eagles, and I
Right.
think that it
That's
could.
funny.
I
That's a
think that it
position
could
I
be.
didn't even think to even I
Yep.
was thinking linebacker more would be like more of a shock to me unless it's like one of those hybrid guys,
Yeah,
kind
I
of like a
mean, I
bigger
think linebacker would shock the hell out of everybody, but and then like I don't know that you could really make an argument for linebacker. I think I can make an argument for cornerback, but for linebacker, I don't think I can after you just did a first round pick on
than what
Jai
you
Campbell last year,
right.
you know?
Interesting. That would be some shit.
I wouldn't hate it though, as long as it was a solid
No, I
pick.
mean,
Like,
and you got me thinking. I'm like, that would be like a Howie Roseman getting ahead of the curve type move where I'm thinking 4 steps ahead of where everybody else is thinking right now.
yep. And look, if that let's say the one of the top three cornerbacks is still on the board at 12 or 13, I can see Howie trading up to get him. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
wouldn't be the it wouldn't be the, "Hey, we got the top wide receiver in the draft to fill AJ's shoes," or, "We got the next best offensive lineman," but, like, look, you got 9 total picks in this draft. You can spend 6 of them on offensive linemen, and it won't hurt you, right?
No.
So, I think you're good, but, yeah, I mean, I can see that being a shocker to everybody, and I could actually see that being something he could do, for sure.
Howie doing Howie things.
Yep. Let him cook. Let him cook.
Let him cook. All right. So it should be interesting, I feel, either way. I mean, it's one of the more intriguing drafts in a while because I feel like almost for the first time in a couple of years, we actually have some big time needs that do need to be filled. Where the past couple, it's been, oh, this would be a nice player to
Yeah,
have with a
nice to
first round
have.
pick.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Not a need, it's a nice to have. Yep. Yep, I agree. I agree. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. I just hope that it's not like we watch the whole first round and Howie just trades out of it. Nothing exciting happens. So,
Oh,
like,
that's
I
the
hope
worst.
I know, but, like, it depends on what he gets. Like, if he trades out and gets, another second round pick and then another pick next year, whatever it is, all right, stockpile the picks because the 2027 draft is a lot deeper than the 2026 draft. It is, right? Um, and especially for the positions that may be in need next year. So
Yeah.
I think offensive line is usually pretty deep no matter what the draft is, right? But I think this year in particular, there's a lot of good tackles. So like finding Lane's replacement, I think they could easily do in the first 3 rounds. Now,
Oh, easily.
talent level, right? And talent level is it may vary, but I think next year is where you really want to have the flexibility of if I need a quarterback, I can get one. If I need a running back, I can get one because who knows? Saquon's not going to be around forever, and he's not getting another extension. You know what I mean? Like they gave him that one.
Right. Well, that's the
Once that
thing.
one's
Do
out,
they take I mean, they always seem to take, like, a running back or something. Like, there's always that one pick. I don't necessarily think you need to this year, but do they look at running back at all this year?
I think again, I think it all depends on like that. They have 2 5th-round picks and a 6th-round pick, so I think that's that frame where you can see them potentially taking a quarterback, a running back. That's where they definitely take a tight end if they haven't already gotten a tight end, and they probably shore up some offensive line help in that 2 5th-round picks and a 6th-round pick area. So you know, I don't know. I don't know who they're not going to spend a round 1, 2, or 3 on a running back.
That would be I guess that would be the position that would shock me if they
Yeah.
1 or 2 pick, they drafted a running back.
Yep. Yep. And I think here's the question that I'm interested to get your take on. How much of a say do you think Sean Mannion has in how this draft goes?
I would hope because of all of the other people they put around him and the fact that they essentially are cleaned house and even got rid of Stoutland and are saying, "This is your offense." I would hope that he would have a lot of say, um, especially if they're going to draft a receiver, and even to a certain point, the offensive lineman. Like he knows what types of guys he needs for that offense. So
For the schemes, yeah, for the schemes. Yep.
I
Yep.
hope he has a big say in it.
Now, do you think he's in the war room? Because let's be
Right,
honest, there's always a shit ton of people in that war room where we're like, who's that? Who's that guy? Like who's
right.
that? Who just high fived Nick? Who high fived Howie? Like we don't know who they are, right? So I would think he would be in there. And
I would hope.
how telling do you think that would be for Nick? Right? Because like, look, everybody's talking about Mannion being like this, not like a McVay or Shanahan boy genius, but they're talking about him being a very smart coach and very knowledgeable when it comes to football, and like he's a football minded guy, maybe a head coach in waiting type thing. So
Right.
they bring him
Well,
in and he's in the war room. I mean,
I mean, if Nick is serious about letting him do his thing and letting him cook, I think he has to be in there.
I think so too. And look, if he's not in there, I'm not going to read anything into it because I'm sure
No.
there's meetings going on this whole week from 8 a.m. to midnight every single day where they're reading scouting reports, talking about the draft board and talking about who they want, who they would pick. If this happens, this is who we want. This guy
Yep.
fits the scheme. This guy doesn't. Trade out if this guy like I'm sure they're going over
I
every
don't want him.
scenario.
I like
Correct.
him. No,
Yep.
no, yes, yeah.
Exactly. So I'm sure that they're doing all that. So I won't read too much into it, but I think it'll be interesting to kind of keep an eye on that to see if he's in there or not.
It is. And I guess that to the same point, do you let Vic in there knowing that he might not be here next year? Do you like, and I know we talked about it last week. Do they have that unspoken or maybe spoken unofficial agreement that Clint Hurt is going to be the DC in waiting? Like, does he have input? Like, it is interesting. Like, who gets what and
Yeah.
who has say?
Well, and you don't know the Eagles are very good about that. You never know after the fact, like because they talked about it. Like, did Vic have any say in this, or did Vic? You hear one side says one thing, one side says it. You're never gonna know, right? You never know the true thing.
Well,
So,
Howie
like,
always says, "Yeah, I ask Vic all the time." Vic's like, "Nobody asked me."
yeah, he's like, who? Howie? Who? I don't have your number. Like one of those things, and that's how I envision this whole thing going. But I can see them having those meetings and it's the offense and defense in there talking about this and Howie giving them the strategy of what he thinks could happen. Like,
Yeah.
it's probably if they like, look, I'm gonna say it. As much as we want Hard Knocks and we want stuff like that, I want them to do a Netflix documentary on Howie Roseman's war room and, like,
Oh,
leading up to
yeah.
the draft. Leading up to the draft, like, the week leading up to the draft, all your meetings, record them all, and I wanna see it in a documentary because I think it would be the most fascinating thing ever, ever to see how his mind works when it comes to that stuff.
I think it would too, because like Mike Mayock was on the afternoon show. I guess it was late last week, and he was talking. I forget. He didn't mention the name of the player they were looking for, but he was like a division rival jumped us to pick him. But it was funny. He said, "I have my trusted guys, and they each have 6 to 8 teams or whatever, and, like, they're calling trying to get information on what they need and everything," and he was like, "We had it except for that one team," and he was like, "It was the only team I was worried about, and they jumped ahead of us." So just to see, like, those inner workings, like and they show clips of it every now and then, like,
Uh-huh.
when he calls, he was like, "It's gonna take this," but you're right, like, I wanna see those meetings leading up to it, and it's like see the argument, see Vic flip out, like, "I don't need this, I need this,"
Yeah.
and, like,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right. Like the how they showed on Hard Knocks or the Saquon documentary with, the Giants GM and how he's calling Saquon and telling him with the agent,
Yeah,
all that stuff,
yeah,
like, that's what I wanna see, like, I wanna see when Howie gets on the phone and talks to Vic and says, "Look, in the 2nd round, we're thinking about taking this position, what do you think?" And Vic says to him, like, "These are my top 3 candidates, if you can't get any of these 3, don't take that position," you know?
yeah,
Like, that's what I
definitely
wanna
don't take
see.
this guy. Yeah,
Right, right. So, like, that would be interesting as hell to me to, like, see that stuff and, maybe one day we will. Maybe one day we will.
yeah, the real world, Howie
Yeah,
Roseman.
yeah. True story.
Cool, well, either way, it should be interesting, we'll be back in a couple weeks to recap who the Eagles pick, and depending on the timing, you never know with the NFL when they release the schedule, we might even have a little schedule release in the same episode, but one way or the other.
One thing I can guarantee you we'll be talking about is AJ Brown.
100%.
We will talk about AJ Brown. One way or another, AJ will be a topic.
I think honestly, every episode we've done so far of this podcast, we've touched on AJ
Mhm.
Brown and whether he's happy.
We have. Yep, we have. Are you happy, AJ? Are you happy? Are
Well,
you happy? 4 Pro
happiness.
Bowls or 4 basically 4 all-pro seasons, 4,000-yard seasons, double-digit wins all 4 seasons, 2 Super Bowl trips, a Super Bowl victory, and you're unhappy. Cool.
Well, I saw
What
this
would make
stat
you
and
happy?
right. I'll leave you with this stat, and I forget who posted, but it was like it wasn't like some random guy on Twitter. It was like somebody from one of the major networks. He was like, AJ Brown, only one person in the NFL the past 5 years has 5,000 yards and a Super Bowl, but you're not happy.
Makes no
It's you,
sense.
AJ. It's you,
Yeah,
AJ. You
like,
have 5,000 yards and a Super Bowl.
yeah, what would make you happy? I don't get it, like, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know.
As the
We'll
AJ
see.
turns.
Yep, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
All right, brother. Well, I'll let you get going here for the third period of the Flyers beat the
Yes,
Pens.
sir.
Where can everybody find you?
So, Twitter, Instagram at Kyle Mont 16. And then you can see me every single week on the Clash and Conferences podcast. We have a couple different pods on there. I'm currently the Philly rep for the NBA pod, and then we
Nice.
do a members pod. Yeah, I know. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. And then we have a members pod later in the night where we talk about all things sports. So come watch us there. And then we have the State of Kentucky report. Transfer portal opened up in college basketball, and it's been pure chaos for 2 weeks.
Always is.
So, yep, yep. Me and my buddy Cody, we talk about all things Kentucky sports, mainly basketball and football. But yeah, you can catch us there at the State of Kentucky report. So
Nice.
good times.
You can find me on all social media at Philly Jimbo every Monday through Friday, this day in Philly sports history. Stay tuned. I got some things working, new formed partnership with the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. So, some things coming with that. If you happen to be a member of the Delco Press Club, I'll see you on Wednesday. Speaking at a luncheon for them, we've got some cool memorabilia coming in. But keeping busy, man. Keeping busy.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And listen, this day in Philly sports history will I'm sure there'll be one day where you'll talk about AJ Brown.
Listen, it could be 6 months straight. I always tease that I could do a podcast this day in Wilt Chamberlain history
Yeah.
because every game was just ridiculous. About 5 years from now, this day in AJ Brown history.
You think AJ Brown gets into the Philly Sports Hall of Fame one day?
Probably not because I don't think he has enough longevity.
Yep. I was going to say I don't think he played here long enough. That's what I was going to
No.
say. Should be 5
Like
years or more in my opinion, right?
Yeah,
At
you'd be
least.
surprised at the strict criteria for that. Like we just inducted the newest class, so you can check that out at PhiladelphiaSportsHallOfFame.com. Hugh Douglas went in, Carly Lloyd, Jim Lynam, Art Still, a native son, is going in, which is
Jim
pretty cool.
Lynam.
But
Jim Lynam. I got a question. So you're going to be talking to him. Beard or no beard for Jim Lynam?
is he going to show up with one, or does he look better without?
Does he look better without?
I think he should only wear the beard on St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you. I was going to say same thing. I think
Love you,
he
Jim. Love you, Jim.
yes, if he shows up to the Hall of Fame with a beard, you got to heckle him a little bit because he definitely looks much better without the beard. Without
Oh,
the beard.
100. He's a St. Joe's guy. I'm going to heckle him no matter what anyway.
Well, there you go. Yeah, as Greg would say, the hawk will never die, right? The hawk will never die.
I mean, he took that team to the Elite Eight and knocked off DePaul that year. So
There you go. There you go. And Lynam we trust. Maybe he can help the Sixers out. Ask him if he wants to coach again.
I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I think so.
Did you ever see him on post game? Like he rips.
Oh
them.
yeah. Oh yeah. He hates the fact that they play the way they do. Absolutely. He's one of us. He's one of us now.
He is. Oh, he is. He is. Nah, so be sure to check that out. The ceremony is in November down at Live Casino. Always a good time. But good stuff with them. So stay tuned. More stuff coming from the Hall of Fame, though.
Love it. Love it.
All right. And on that note, we will see you in a couple weeks to recap the draft, look at the schedule, and try to figure out what this team is. Excuse me.
You're right. We don't know. We'll figure it out, though. And as always, go Birds.
Go Birds. And Dallas sucks.
Dallas sucks. Go Flyers. Go Flyers.
Yes. Let's go Flyers. Beat the Pens.